How you doing, guys? Today we're gonna hopefully finish all the assembly on this B1290, and I'm hoping to get it bolted onto the RJ35. I was planning on putting it on my engine stand and get it started up, but I'm gonna push all the chips into the center of the table on this one. We're gonna get it all together. We're gonna put it on the tractor, and then we're gonna start it up on the tractor for the first time. We got a few things we need to do. We got to get the carburetor mounted. We got to get the governor arm on. This little link right here is the throttle link that actually holds the governor spring. I'll show you how that all goes together, but it's not the correct one for this application. We're going to have to cut this down, and we're going to have to drill a hole. But to get the correct measurement from the pivot point to the end, okay, we're going to have to go outside and take a look at my RJ59.
So here on my RJ59, you can see that this arm is right here. What the lower section is where the throttle cable attaches, and this piece here is where the governor's tension spring grips. Now, this particular Clinton one is way too long in this section. The bottom portion of it is correct. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to line it up, make a mark with a pen, cut it off, drill a hole, and it'll be as close as, as close as this one is. And this is an original piece on my RJ59.
I've got everything all hooked up, but I just wanted to show you something real quick. When I brought this thing up from the basement, I noticed there was a puddle of oil. If you see this little divot right here, I think there's actually a pathway from the inside of the oil pan to this little hole. And it's leaking oil through that little hole, or that little like casting mark. Can you believe this? Unbelievable. I cleaned it all up. I'm going to leave it here and see what happens. I have another oil pan out in the shed. We'll do a swap-a-roo if I need to. What a nightmare. But in any event, carburetor's mounted, link is mounted, governor arm is on, bolt is tightened on the little governor shaft. We got the governor's tension spring in place, and here's the little arm that I made. Now, on an RJ, the throttle comes to this bolt and then goes to this pivot point right here. When you open the throttle, it pulls the arm in this direction, which also at the same time opens up the throttle, okay? But then you also pull it, and you see how that spring is expanding? That is the actual tension spring for the governor. So in other words, if I push this way, see how that spring loads back? So in other words, when you're at idle, or excuse me, at fast idle, or full speed, the governor weight pushes on the bottom half of the arm, which is inside the motor, which forces this closed, okay, or to slow the RPM down. That spring is what is needed in order to control the governor on a Clinton. I got to get a little clip and a washer just to hold this in place, and that's all done. And I need to run to the parts store to get a J8C spark plug, and then we can put all that back together. I can also put the flywheel back on, put the tins on, and this engine is just about ready to be put on the engine stand. All right, we have the flywheel installed. The Shinaki nut is torqued to 400 inch-pounds. We're all set there. We have a brand new J8C gap to 25, just like the manual says. We got our little clip. Everything seems to work real good there. Everything seems to actuate real nice. Tins are on. Bore cover, head cover, blower cover, they're all in place. Unfortunately, my spark plug lead is just a hair too short. It's like literally maybe a 1/16 of an inch, an 1/8 of an inch too short. So I just took the top, unscrewed the top of the spark plug put it in place and then tightened it down, and it's in place now. It's not going to fall off. Got our kill wire in place. I just have to go ahead and figure out a loop, some sort of throttle hookup for this, and it's just about ready to be put on the engine stand. The initial install of the Shinaki was a fail. Essentially, once I tightened it down to the blower cover, the end of the nut binds with the inside of the recoil itself. Not by a lot, but enough where you can't pull the cable. I narrowed it down to that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get rid of these clips. These are not original anyways. If you had the correct blower cover, it would have already had nuts spot welded to the inside of the blower cover. So what I'm going to do is I went to my little drawer of little screws. I found 4 screws that'll work with 4 nuts. I'm going to pull this off. I'm going to take the blower cover off. I'm going to space this out with a couple washers on each one of the bolts just to move the recoil away from the face of the blower cover, and then put it back together and see if it works. In other words, it'll pull and retract without binding. With that, then we can move on to the next phase, which is to theoretically start thinking about getting this thing started. I was going to put it on my engine stand, but I'm leaning more towards just going ahead and bolting it right into the tractor and starting it up on the tractor. Everything is mounted and centered, so the little nut doesn't touch any of the paws. The recoil works as it should. I went ahead and blue Loctited all the little screws in place, so that shouldn't be an issue. I just got to put the blower cover bolts back in, and then we'll go ahead and mount it to the frame. This is what I'm about to show you is one of the reasons why I think I'm going to stop working on other people's tractors for a while, because it's always one thing after another, and it ends up being kind of like a restoration project, which it wasn't. I didn't even notice this, but somebody has already tried to get this fitting out without success. So that means I'm going to have to try to do that. But the bolt here is completely rusted, because what I was hoping to do is just bolt the hood on, put the fuel line on it, and get her running, because I pretty much have everything all set to go here. Exhaust is back on, oil's in the motor, everything's bolted in. I just need to get the hood on it so I can put the throttle. So, all right, nothing I can do about it. I got to get this off the hood because I'm going to have to really twist on this, and I don't want to ruin the tank or the hood. So let's get to it. All right, for this video, that's a wrap. Fuel line around here was just super expensive. I don't understand what it is, and I wanted to get a couple little Briggs & Stratton fuel filters, and neither one of them were economical around where I live. So I had to go to Mr. Bezos' website and order it. Both those pieces, fuel line, fuel clamps, and fuel filters, but they won't be here until Monday. But even with that, we got a lot done. We got the motor installed, the engine pulley, the belt, all that stuff is back in. The exhaust system's in. I was able to finish up the steering, put the steering wheel on. Everything's right there. Hood's installed. Gas tank has been cleaned out, installed. The fitting's been put in, a new fitting's been put in the bottom of it. We just got to get the fuel line and the fuel filter. I did squirt a little bit of brake cleaner into it and had to pull it about 1,600 times, but it did fire off with a couple thumps, so that's good. So I know theoretically the ignition system, and it has really, really good compression. So that should be a runner. Well, the agreement with the owner of this tractor is, or was, put the new motor on, get the new motor running, and then just get it to go and drive. So in other words, take this, boop, and have it start tracking away. So next video, we'll put the fuel line, fuel filter, we'll put fuel in it. I already put oil in it, so we're good there. And we'll see if this thing will truck around the backyard. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate all your comments, suggestions, and your viewership. So please like, share, and subscribe. And until we get some bits and pieces from Jeff, you have a great day.